Hello, everyone. Hola, and thank you so much for joining us for this very special and impactful LTX Quest panel. My name is Danielle, and I will be your moderator. So we are going to take a brief but pretty deep dive into the state of Latinx entrepreneurship and the investor ecosystem for today's panel. So I'll kick things off by introducing myself. As I mentioned, my name is Danielle, and I'm joining you live from my home in Miami, Florida. I work on the marketing team for HelloAlice.com. So HelloAlice is a free-to-join digital platform for entrepreneurs. It is our mission to help business owners unlock equitable access to funding and then meet these business owners with the learning resources and community they need to optimize those opportunities. And before joining HelloAlice, I spent 5 years growing a small business, an all Latina run jewelry company in my hometown of Miami, Florida. So I personally understand the roller coaster of entrepreneurship, the challenges, the sweat, the tears, and also the beauty of building something and creating impact. So I just want to thank you all for joining us today. And I am extremely humbled to be joining the virtual stage with two incredible Latinas who have so much wisdom and motivation to share. So I'll allow them now to introduce themselves. Nancy, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Hola a todos. Thank you for having me here today. So I'm Nancy Torres. I am a partner at Ulu Ventures. Ulu Ventures is a seed stage VC firm, Latina founded and Latina led. We focus on investing in seed stage technology companies with an emphasis on using decision analysis to make investment decisions and a focus on investing in diverse teams. So over 80% of our investments have a diverse co-founder, and we look at that across women, U.S. minorities, and immigrants, and really excited to be joining you all here today.
All right, Jennifer.
Yes, well, hello, everyone. Hola. Great to be here with Nancy and Danielle. Thank you. My name is Jennifer Garcia. I am the Chief Operating Officer for Latino Business Action Network. We're a nonprofit based here in the Silicon Valley. And our focus is really to empower Latino entrepreneurship across the country. So we partner closely with Stanford University. We first start with research. So we have the most comprehensive research on Latino entrepreneurs. And we're really looking to that data to lead a lot of our efforts, programming, et cetera. What we're probably most known for is our business scaling program at Stanford GSB. This is designed to take entrepreneurs to the next level. And then thirdly, we focus on cultivating and building an ecosystem. We recognize that the world of entrepreneurship is a journey. We know that we can't scale companies through a program, but it really does take the longevity of an ecosystem and the support of an ecosystem. So that means for us, we bring together not only our nearly 1,000 entrepreneurs at this point, but also our network of capital providers and our network of mentors to really cultivate an environment so that these companies can continue to grow and scale. And so such a pleasure to be here and to join this conversation.
Thank you. So before we dive into questions, and I'm going to start by getting a little personal so we can all really get to know each other, I just wanted to kind of level set and share a pretty powerful stat. So according to the 2021 State of Latino Entrepreneurship Report by the Stanford Graduate School of Business and the Latino Business Action Network, Latinos continue to start businesses at a faster rate than all others, adding to a total economic output by Latinos in the US of 2.75 trillion. So I just wanted to throw that out there while we start to have this conversation about this ecosystem. And now I'd like to kick it off with some questions. So we know that LTX Quest is bringing people from all walks of life together, everyone who is, focused on creating impact in all different types of capacities. So I'd love to hear both of your origin stories of when you felt like there was an issue, there was impact that you wanted to create, and how that led you into your current position professionally. So whoever wants to go first.
I'm happy to start. So, well, I'll say the very first moment was actually, the first thing I ever wanted to be when I was little. The first thing I ever wanted to be when I grew up was the president of the US. And I found out pretty early on that because I was born in Colombia, but I've grown up in the US basically since I was a year old. But that because I wasn't born in the US, like that wasn't an option for me. So I think this point of access is something that that I felt very passionate about from a very young age. And then fast forward to my first role out of college, which was actually working at Google, working in Silicon Valley in the tech industry, and really seeing the lack of representation of Black and Latinx employees at all levels of the organization. And, those were communities that came from, identified with in experiences, and I didn't understand it. And so, having grown up in Silicon Valley over the past 10 years, I've just, made it a point to be in a position where I can influence the allocation of resources to diverse entrepreneurs in order to build and scale the future businesses that are going to transform how we work, how we live, and how we move around the world.
I love it. Well, for me, I grew up in New Mexico. I was born and raised in a small town in northern New Mexico. So very rural. I was born into an entrepreneurial family. My dad had his own business. And at that point, it really wasn't one of these sexy Silicon Valley businesses, right? So he was a landscaper. And so for us, that meant that we were really living off the resources of the land. And it meant a lot of hard work. I was probably the longest unpaid employee of my dad's company. And so this entrepreneurial experience, it taught me many things, right? It taught me the perseverance. It taught me hard work ethics. But it also did two specific things for me. First, it drove me straight to corporate America. And then secondly, it planted a seed that would later bloom. So I spent a majority of my career in the finance industry. I had about 14 years with Bloomberg Financial and with the money management firm prior to that, which was a fantastic experience. But what began to bloom was that seed of entrepreneurship, where I began to see small businesses for what they were, for the contributions that they make, not only to their families and to their communities, but also to the economy. So I took a huge pivot and I resigned from my corporate role at Bloomberg. I started consulting and working with small businesses. That was my ability to scale myself and bring content, resources, and expertise to a wider audience. So it's really that entrepreneurial journey. My father's entrepreneurial journey blossomed in me and really, I say, ruined me for.
I think you might have frozen. Nancy, can you hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. I think we might have lost Jennifer can you hear me okay, Jennifer?
I could hear you.
Okay, now we hear you. Great. Can you share that last part that you were saying? I think you broke up a bit. I think I heard you say that your father's entrepreneurship story almost ruined you, that comment. If you could share that again.
It forever changed me, right? Like it forever changed the mold and my career trajectory. And so anyone that has the entrepreneurial bug, is in the entrepreneurial world, it's really hard to think outside of that and put yourself in a mold of supreme structure.
Absolutely. So this next question is for each of you. How does your culture influence your professional position on a daily basis? I'd love to hear that. I know for me, I had never even really stopped to think about Jennifer, you were just talking about your father's story about like how closely related the immigrant story is to entrepreneurship. until I got to Hello Alice and really started thinking about, wow, my grandparents, when they came here from Cuba, they started, my grandfather was an attorney in Havana and then came here and started a little clothes shop with my grandmother who would sew all the clothes. And, it was through entrepreneurship and through these small businesses that they were able to create a livelihood for our family and establish roots here. And it's amazing that I've grown up in Miami or in this community my entire life. And then I got to Hello Alice, and hearing all of these entrepreneurship stories, it made me realize, wow, I have that in my blood too. And I was built from that as well. So it's such a beautiful thing when culture starts to combine with the work that you're doing. So for you both, how does your culture influence your decisions and your role professionally?
I'll share. So for me, similar to what you just described, Danielle. So, my parents immigrated to the US from Colombia, and, I think they just seeing firsthand, the hard work that they put in to building a life for me and my brothers here in the US so that we could have opportunities. And at the same time, the majority of the rest of my family is still living in Colombia, and many of them their own business owners in order to make a living there. So I think entrepreneurship is something that I grew up seeing in my immediate family, and hard work, it's ponte las pilas is definitely that in our cultures. It was, made for entrepreneurship and investing. And I think that's a competitive advantage that Latinx founders have in this space. And so how it influences me day to day is, when I'm meeting with founders, learning about their businesses, the ability to execute is something that I see as a real strength. 10 other people can have the same idea as you, but how do you execute that? And I think that is something that is ingrained in the culture that I grew up, and I think in the Latinx community in general.
Absolutely. Jennifer?
We're all ruined, right? Like our roots of entrepreneurship, we're all ruined for structure here. So because I work with Latino Business Action Network, and by definition in the audience that we serve, it is all Latino, we work with Latino-owned businesses day in and day out. And certainly I can think about my own experience and how it is relatable to so many Latino entrepreneurs across the country. And Nancy mentioned this earlier, was like access, right? When I think about the conversations that were happening around my dinner table, we were not talking about how you 10x your business, how you access funding, even like we weren't even aspiring to the greatest schools as I was thinking about college. It was like, do your homework, do good, and go to school, and that will help. Or we were talking about the business and what needed to be done over the weekend. And so that same type of limitation in conversations, exposure and limitation to access really then transpires to the work that we do now. Because when we think about supporting small businesses and growing small businesses, a huge component is who and what they have access to. Do they have access to the knowledge and information and to the resources that can really open doors for them or empower them to take their company to make investment decisions? Do they have access to the individuals that could really fund their business or lend them the line of credit that they need, to help with their operating expenses? So all of that really comes, it really transfers over to my own experience, to what I see today and in the work that we do today.
Yes, access. So important. So I'd love to jump in now and talk about trends and challenges. And we know that access is definitely both of those, but I can tell you that at Hello Alice, we often survey the entrepreneurs in our community just to keep our hands on the pulse of the community. And we've learned through a recent capital access survey that 76% of Hispanic owners say capital is limiting their day-to-day operations, and 79% are saying that it's limiting their business growth potential. Also, 30% of owners cited raising capital as their biggest challenge in Q3 of 2022. So I'd love to hear from you both, Nancy and Jennifer, just about the trends that you're seeing in your worlds and about the top challenges that you're seeing in your worlds for Latinx entrepreneurs.
I can certainly start with that. I mentioned that at LBAN we start with research. And so we have what we believe is the most comprehensive research on Latino entrepreneurship. So we survey over 10,000 businesses on an annual basis. And we also, 50% of those are white-owned businesses. So we can benchmark and really understand what is the entrepreneurship landscape for the two cohorts. And I think you started with this, Danielle, earlier, is that Latinos are really starting businesses at a faster pace and at a pretty astounding rate. So that is, we are starting businesses at a pace of 44% versus 4% for all others. So that means we're not only innovative and hardworking, but we're also entrepreneurs by spirit and by heart, right? They have great ideas, they have aspirations, and they have the determination and perseverance to move those ideas forward. In the world of tech, we found this year that Latinos are actually over-indexing in tech, and we identify that or define that as high-growth VC-backable firms. So we're seeing Latinos represented, 19% of all Latino businesses are in tech versus 14% of white-owned businesses being in tech. And I think that's a new finding, and probably something that is not many people are not aware of, right? That there is, as Latinos are a younger cohort, as they're starting businesses faster, they are embracing technology. They're thinking about how they leverage technology to solve today and tomorrow's biggest problems. So we're starting businesses, we have a greater representation in tech, but then to your point of what are the challenges and what are the opportunities, and I think all of your stats that you shared are spot on, because access to capital continues to be a huge barrier for Latino-owned businesses. On the debt side, we found that Latinos are 60% less likely to receive a loan from a national bank. 60% less likely. And that's holding everything else constant. That's holding credit scores constant. That's holding revenues constant. And yet they're 60% less likely. I would venture to say there that there's some systemic barriers that are keeping Latino businesses from accessing this type of capital. And then certainly on the equity side, and I'm sure Nancy can speak more to this, but Latinos are receiving less than 2% of VC funding. Now, when there is a challenge, there's an opportunity. And so when you think about lenders, be it national, regional banks, there's such an opportunity to invest, to lend to this is a new market. This is a new market for them. And if you're not evaluating your procedures and your policies as it relates to small businesses and Latino-owned businesses that might not fit into your boxes, you're missing out on a huge economic opportunity as this cohort of Latinos continues to be the driver for small businesses. And similarly on the equity side, and I'll let Nancy speak to that one.
Yeah, well, I want to touch on a couple points that you mentioned, Jennifer. So the first being that, that 19% being tech businesses. I think there's a popular misconception that, startup means getting VC money, and, that's not the case. Like venture capital is not the only option for as a source to grow your business. It's a very specific type of profile of these high growth technology ventures. And so really understanding the components of your business and what capital structure is going to make sense for it. For businesses that are not necessarily venture businesses, there are a number of other resources, and LBAN is a great resource for helping connect entrepreneurs to capital providers in some of these other areas, whether it's SMB loans, non-dilutive fundings from government or other entities on pitch competitions, things like that. Revenue-based financing, there's a different financial products. And so really taking the time to understand your options versus just assuming you need to go pitch to VC investors, I think is very important. And, I think the stats show there's definitely, systemic bias and issues of access in helping even Latino tech founders get access to capital. And, one thing that we do at Ulu Ventures is that we follow a very analytical process in which we evaluate every single startup the same way. It's very structured and standardized, which is hard to do in especially seed stage investing, where there is less data, pre-revenue, many of the times. And so that is when, bias can be high. When you have less structure, there's less objective data to go off of, and then subjectivity kicks in, and people make decisions off of stereotypes or other unconscious biases that they may have. So we believe that adding structure and applying criteria consistently to companies helps, and that helps with that, in addition to having a diverse team, right? You see, there's a number of different studies that show, women investors are more likely to invest in women-led startups, right? So it's also our responsibility to build a diverse team around that table so that we can counter one another's biases and realize the benefits of diversity in order to make a better decision on a company to invest in. And, I will just say, I think all of these are opportunities for innovation for founders too. Exactly what Jennifer was saying in terms of the issues in getting access to capital. That's an opportunity in fintech, right, for a Latino founder. As we look at the workforce, right, Latinos becoming responsible for the majority of the workforce growth in this country and starting businesses at a faster pace. That's an opportunity to, create a company around the future of work. So all of these challenges where, Latinos are becoming a sizable part of consumption and the workforce and entrepreneurship in the US, it's an opportunity to build for our community as well.
Yes, challenges equals opportunity. I love to hear that over and over again. So let's talk resources, because we know that, access is not only access to capital, but also to resources, to community. Of course, I want to share that on helloalice.com. I encourage you all to write this down right now, or pull out your phone and check it out. But if you head over to helloalice.com, you can check out our grant opportunities, including one grant program open right now called the Small Business Growth Fund, that's offering $5,000 grants to small business owners to help them boost their business at the end of 2022. You can also see other grant opportunities available in our funding center. You can check out our financing marketplace to learn about loan opportunities, and our newest offering, the Hello Alice Small Business MasterCard. So I'd love for Nancy and Jennifer, if you can share resources that everyone who's watching and listening right now needs to know about. They should have it on their phone. They need to check out right now to push them forward.
So for us, I think we really do focus on building a national ecosystem with an emphasis on a local ecosystem. So wherever you are across the country, I think it is important that you get connected locally, like understand who your business leaders, what organizations are supporting small businesses in your region. Get connected, get out the door, go to events, meet the leaders, meet other entrepreneurs. And then from our perspective, I would say connect with LBAN online, follow what, you can go to our website and sign up to receive our newsletter. We do offer webinars for all business owners on a variety of topics that will really help bring the resources, the education, but also an opportunity to hear from subject matter experts. So I would encourage you to do that. And then for businesses that qualify for our business scaling program, I highly encourage you to apply. We are starting our next cohort on October 1st and 2nd. So we're accepting applications today. But certainly if the fall doesn't work for you, we do offer it in the spring as well. So take a look at that. That business scaling program is designed for Latino businesses that are headquartered in the United States with $1 million in annual revenue or greater, or $500,000 in external funding. So we invite you to apply. And if we could be of resource to you, please let us know.
Yeah, I'll just add that I think, there's a number of convening community organizations that are incredibly important for the ecosystem, LBAN being one of them. I definitely get involved in those organizations and attend those events. At the end of the day, it's all about your relationships that you have in order to get that access that we've been talking about, right? And so, just speaking specifically for tech as well, the Google for Startups recently launched their inaugural Latino Founders Fund, where, they gave $100K non-dilutive checks to Latino founders and are providing resources and mentorship to those founders. That's one example of a convening organization. Visible Hands, which is a pre-seed fund and accelerator focused on diverse founders, another opportunity. So there's a number of these groups, some with access to funding and others with access to other individuals. So, Latinx VC Familia. I am a co-founder of Latinx MBA Association, where, we have founders and investors represented in that group, connecting to one another to help one another advance. And we talk about lifting as we climb, so definitely leverage a community through these different organizations. And I think there's also individual learning too. There's a number of different books, Why Startups Fail, Pitch Anything, that, if you are a tech founder and you're looking to learn about the fundraising process and, improve your pitch, there are those just individual learning resources that are helpful too.
And I would just add, invest in yourself. Right. This is a great time for you to start a program, do some education, pick up a book, but maybe even a coach, right? Someone that has gone before you that can really help you see outside of the box. So it's always a great time to invest in yourself.
I love that so much. And yes, there's so many resources out there and such a large community of people that want to see you win and want to lift you up as we all climb. I think that's such an important and powerful message. So we talked a little bit about systemic bias, systemic barriers. What are the issues here? I know that we could probably have a whole other panel to talk about this, so we can keep it brief and I'd love to focus on what are some things we can all do to work towards this, to work towards more, to breaking down these barriers a bit as a community.
I think I'll speak on the investor side. I think, if you're an investor, taking the time to demystify the investment process, demystify the industry, be transparent, with, what you look for when you're investing, and sharing your knowledge, sharing that information with the Latinx community, with other entrepreneurs, so that others can benefit from that learning.
Nancy, you mentioned something earlier, which I think is really important, is that you have a similar structure or the same structure for evaluating every company that you see. And that takes discipline. But I also think for individuals that are in a gatekeeper type of role, meaning they are grantors of access or grantors of capital, you really need to evaluate your processes and what are the guidelines and the parameters that you have for whatever it is that you do. And I'll give you one example. For access to capital for national banks, we found, I shared this earlier, that Latinos are 60% less likely to receive funding from a national bank. But when we look at some of the criteria that banks are using to evaluate loan applications, is credit history. Well, for entrepreneurs that might, be new to this country or newer to this country, they don't have the decades of credit history. That doesn't mean they have bad credit. It just means it doesn't check the box the way the bank's process is current today. So I think it's really important to think about, do what you've been doing for years, is it unintentionally excluding people for reasons that don't have weight today? And so really taking a look at our processes and our procedures for granting access.
Nancy, how can we build more networks with investors and increase more pathways for more Latinx investors?
Yes, so I definitely, on increasing the pathways, going back to this demystifying the industry. When I was first thinking about VC, I reached out to another Latino working in the industry to just have a conversation, share with me, what this is really like. What does the landscape look like? And those one-on-one conversations are so powerful and lead to other connections as well. How I got my role here today was actually through a friend who was involved in similar Latinx community organizations as me, who let me know about this role. And otherwise, it would not have been on my radar, right? How I first connected to the folks I work with now was also through an individual connection that happened several years ago. And so those one-on-one connections, if you're trying to get into VC, are incredibly important. There are also there's a number of fellowship programs that firms hold. I was an intern with Harlem Capital. They have a robust internship program, and a number of people who have participated in that program have gone into roles in venture capital. Latinx VC has a fellows program. So there's a number of these sort of apprenticeship opportunities in VC to help individuals get connected to the right people for opportunities.
Thank you. So we are almost at time, and such a shame because I could speak to you both for hours and hours and hours. You have so much wisdom to share. But before we wrap, I would love for each of you to share just your top tip. If you could make sure that everyone listening and everyone attending LTX Quest can get one thing out of this, what would that be? What is your biggest piece of advice, warning, tip that you want Latinx entrepreneurs to know?
I'm going to go similar to what Nancy just shared, is network. Let the inner networker in you come out. And if it's not in you, build it up. Build it up, because when you build your network, you are building relationships, and you're building what will hopefully then be new opportunities and new doors that could open for you in the future. You'll be able to learn from people that are now in your circle. So, you know, as an entrepreneur, you need all the resources you can get. And so build your network, connect with people, and build those relationships.
And I'll just say, be your number one advocate. You know, there's no shortage of people who are going to be telling you that you can't do something because they're projecting, you know, their experiences and biases onto you. And you have to be able to rise above that. I like to say I'm used to being underestimated. And I think a lot of us in our community, you know, we are sort of used to that and persevering in the face of adversity. So be your number one advocate and others will follow suit.
And lastly, what is your wish for the Latinx community?
I say that we seize our moment. There's so much like unlocked potential and contribution, and probably many of us don't even understand the magnitude of who we are as a community and what we contribute. And so what that means for you individually, like where you are, seize your moment, take that big step, you know, that risk, reach for something that's out of your comfort zone. And if we all do that individually, collectively, there's, you know, a huge impact.
Yeah. And I'll say back to the point we were talking about earlier, that we lift as we climb. We're a very diverse community across a number of different dimensions. And I think if we can find unity in that diversity and helping one another as we continue to advance and climb, then I think we'll truly see prosperity as a community.
I love that. I mean, seize your moment, lift as you climb, challenge as equals opportunity. I hope there's someone listening and watching this that's putting this on t-shirts or mugs or something, because there is a business opportunity here from some of the nuggets of wisdom that we've gotten on this panel. So I just want to thank everyone for attending this panel, for watching, listening, taking the time out of your busy day, maybe away from your small business, away from your pitch deck, for a moment to listen and learn and connect with the community. You can learn about Hello Alice at helloalice.com. And if I can help you in any way, please don't hesitate to reach out. And then Nancy and Jennifer, if you want to just share where they can learn more about your companies, organizations, and reach out to you directly.
Yeah, you can visit us on lban.com, lban.com.
And for us, uluventures.com. So that's uluventures.com.
Awesome. Thank you, Nancy and Jennifer. And thank you to all watching and listening. I hope everyone has a beautiful day.
Thank you, Danielle.